Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Julie Mann and I show men and women how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And I'm really delighted because today I'm joined by Tammy Braswell. Hi Tammy.
Hi Julie.
You do so many things. You're a channel, a divine self-activator, a high vibration healer, an energetic creation coach, a guide and a teacher. Wow.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Oh yes. Did you have any idea when you were growing up, Tammy, that you had these skills? Tell us your story.
Well, when I was little, I did have what I'd call energy and spirit experiences, hearing voices, feeling people touching me who weren't there. And just, I actually have some childhood memories that don't exist in this plane of existence. I used to go to a little park where near an apartment we lived in when I was 4. And it's a very vivid memory with a little girl who was like about 9. And we'd go through some bushes and I fell off the merry-go-round and they had to stop it. I mean, it's very detailed. The park doesn't exist. My mom said she would have never at 4 years old let me wander off with a 9-year-old little girl. And there was no 9-year-old little girl. So I have multiple memories there. So there were things that I thought that was normal. I thought they were real. And so it was just how I lived. But I also knew that no one else was talking about the things that I was experiencing the way I was experiencing them. So I really didn't talk to anybody else about it. So it wasn't until I was about 13. My parents got divorced. My mom and I moved into our own place, and her deceased younger brother came to visit us energetically, and turning up music and moving through us. And after that experience of having it together, I now had her to talk to, and she shared her experiences that way with me and took a lot of pressure that I had growing up of not being able to talk about it off of me.
Wow. I mean, firstly, that sounds a little bit scary as a little girl, you know, experiencing people touching you when you were young.
Oh, that part was, yeah, the playground thing I thought was just a normal experience. But yeah, hearing the voices, and I used to sleep with my covers over my head because mostly did it at night when I was relaxed. And so I figured if I covered myself up, they couldn't get to me.
Wow. So what was it like then not being able to talk to other people about it?
Rather, as a child, stressful. I didn't really want to be here. And it wasn't until I got older that I shared that I used to, when I was about 9, 10 years old, and I didn't tell anyone this, I would try to smother myself to not be here anymore. And it doesn't work well when you do it to yourself because you have to breathe. So you take the pillow off. But yeah, I knew I didn't belong here and I couldn't talk to anybody. And it just felt like, I don't use the word anymore, but life was hard and I didn't fit in. Even though I fit in, I had lots of friends and, you know, life was, I spent the summers with my grandparents. From the outer view, my life looked really fun as a little kid, but inwardly, it was challenging. So that's why I do what I do now, because, well, one, it's the expression of who I am, but two, so that I can help others who hide that part of themselves too and can't or don't feel like they can talk about it.
Wow. I mean, I certainly grew up feeling like I didn't fit in, but I never experienced any of the kinds of things that you're talking about. So what made you, I guess, consciously decide that you couldn't talk to anyone?
When I was little, my dad was I used the term harsh. He picked on everything I did and none of it was ever good enough. So, and he teased me a lot. So when I had those experiences and no one else was really talking about them, I saw it as more reason for him to pick on me, tease me, say there was something wrong with me. So I just didn't bring it up and my friends weren't talking about it. So I just kept it quiet to myself and just dealt with it.
It sounds like it was a massive relief then when your mum admitted that she'd had experiences.
Yeah, when we had the one together, that was just, I mean, so obvious you couldn't miss it. And then, yeah, we sat down and we talked, but it's still, I was a teenager, still living in a teenager world. And we talked little bits here and there, but when I was 17, my maternal grandfather, who I spent every summer with my grandparents, he died on my 17th birthday. And I didn't think I took it to the level that I did, but since my birthday's in December, a couple weeks later was our school Christmas holiday break. And for those 2 weeks, I didn't eat or sleep. And I've come to know it was a actual up-leveling spiritually, but at the time, everybody thought 17-year-old teenager, I wasn't eating for, because I was a teenage girl. And one day I just realized I had lost all this weight and I didn't look like me. And I just went back to normal. And after that, everything increased, spirit communication. And for a long time, it was scary because I didn't know how to handle any of it that was happening. And now I'm very conscious of it. I have boundaries. I have what I allow in and how I allow it in. And it's good now. It's fun now. I couldn't imagine life any other way, but all the bumpiness in the road up to now, or probably about 20 years ago, was a lot.
Yeah. Wow. So what kind of jobs did you do before you decided to follow your path professionally?
Usually just small jobs. I did a lot of like receptionist type jobs because I could be a little creative and I like to support other people in what they're doing. So I was in a supportive kind of roles. None of my jobs lasted very long. Usually they were all very short because I would become very bored at them. Just wasn't stimulating. And so I would go to another job and I'd have to learn how to do that job. And then once I got good at that job, it became boring again. So I was always searching for what is it that I really want to do? I started to go to college thinking I was going to be a corporate attorney. And that didn't feel, I went for 2.5 years and that didn't feel like the place to be. And so really when I finally decided this was what I wanted to do, it felt like that was it. Finally found the fit. And I can't at this point imagine doing anything else. Nothing else in this world.
Wow. I know that there'll be people watching, Tammy, who are really skeptical and they want proof. When did you have proof for yourself that what you were experiencing was real?
Well, definitely when I had the experience with my mother. Her younger brother had died unexpectedly when he was 20. She would have been about 22 and I was just turning 4. And I'm going to my age. We had one of those giant consoles with the turntable and the 8-track and the stereo in it. And we had lived in our apartment for only a little while after my parents got divorced. And my mom and I, she'd bring my uncle up every once in a while. And I think it was because it was his birthday. His birthday is February 11th. So it was about that time. And the song on the stereo started to raise by itself. And she's like, oh, that was Paul's favorite song. And then something changed in the room. And she said she felt the same thing. But what I felt was this whoosh of energy, both warm and cold at the same time, but wonderful feeling move through my entire body, like straight through me, and chills. And then when we said that we both experienced that, that was the most real, obvious experience. And then since then, I've had tons of them. But that was the first big one that I was very conscious of what was happening and I wasn't experiencing it by myself.
Yeah, I guess you then had, confirmation that, what you were experiencing could be because your mum was experiencing it too. Yeah. So what do you say to people who are skeptical?
I don't track too many people who are skeptical anymore. I did when I was unclear, when I was nervous about sharing it, because like I said, my whole life I didn't share these things. So when you start to talk about this stuff and you're afraid to talk about it still because of judgment and skepticism and criticism, and you don't say anything, when you start to share it. I've had friends who got excited. They're like, tell us your stories, when I was about 18 years old. And so I'd like to be around that friend because she always wanted to hear my stories. But other people, when they say that, and I go, well, okay, you believe what you believe, and I believe what I believe. And that's just the way it is. And now I just completely talk from this place, and people receive what they receive from it. And sometimes people move away from me because they just don't get what I'm talking about. And that's okay, because I work vibrationally, energetically, and I can actually make my energy be in a way that I will just, those people just move away. So I don't have too many skeptical people anymore.
Okay. What kinds of people do you work with, Tammy, and how do you work with them?
I love working with women because I can relate to them, and I seem to attract women probably between their 40s and 60s, somewhere a little on either side, but energetically, vibrationally, and what that means is we are energetic, vibrational beings. So I'm working with your energy, and when I read your energy, if you want to call it that, when I interpret what's coming forth through your energy, I'm experiencing and receiving whatever is in your field at the time. I do energy healing work, so I can go in and help you shift blocks, energetic blocks, places that emotions have become stagnant in your energy field, help you to see higher perspective. So understand things from the higher side of it rather than the lower side, which most stuff is taught to us or just the collective energy speaks from. And when you start to really shift how you're viewing things, what you're thinking about them, how you're feeling about them, and let the energy move, your life shifts and changes and becomes more consciously what you want it to be. I mean, it works that way, but most of us do it unconsciously because we're just conditioned to not pay attention or think life is happening out here at us or to us, and it's happening through us. So when you can get more centered and realize that, you change how your life works. And I live that all the time, and I can actually see how energy moves for people. So if there's something you want to shift, I can imagine, I don't know how to explain it, I see it in my mind, how to shift that thing.
What are the women typically saying to you when they come to you? What's their kind of problem? What do they say?
The biggest thing I would probably say is around relationships. They don't have the relationships they want, and then that turns into they don't have the finances they want, and then they don't have the health. And since our life looks like parts, but it's really one thing, if one thing's out of whack, then all things are. So you start shifting one and the others change. But I think most people come to me with something about a relationship, and then what that really is about is their relationship with their self. This is our main part of us in life. It's not about worrying what everybody else is doing or trying to save them or fix them. They're all messages on what we want to heal and process and work on for ourselves to be the highest version that we can be. And so that relationship's number one. And when we shift that, all those other relationships, our relationship to other people, our relationship to money, our relationship to our health, our relationship to our spiritual development, everything like that will shift because we've gone back to the place it's all coming from, and worked on that and done our healing and gotten centered, and we are the center of our world. Even though people don't like to always say that, everything happens from us. So where we're at is what makes the difference.
I mean, that'll be news to, I'm sure, some people watching. If someone right now is really struggling with their relationship with money, or the relationship with themselves, or the relationship with a partner or whatever, do you have any simple tips, Tammy, that they can implement now that could start to see, to make a difference for them?
let's see. Well, since we're the center of our space, we want to stop and take a moment to first breathe, to take some deep, and I call them intentional breaths that open you up to being more receptive to what's available, because most of us shallow breathe because it's just an unconscious, subconscious function, unconscious function. But to really stop and take a few breaths and slow down for a moment and think about what you would like your life to be like. And it's helpful to notice what it is now, because it's like they say with the GPS, you got to know where you're starting from to get to where you're going. But just notice what's going on in your life, and then how are you showing up in it? What is the version of you that's showing up in this? And I really believe if we all stop and take a look at that, we can see, how we're showing up in our life. Are we showing up from this high place, or are we showing up in the drama, the chaos, the struggle? Especially right now, a lot of people are in those depressed lower places, and but they're not sure what they want on the other side. So a fun way of doing that, a simple way, is take a sheet of paper and write don't wants on the left hand side and do wants on the right hand side. Draw a line down it. Write all the things you don't want in your life, and be honest with yourself. Don't try to make it flowery, or try to hide from yourself, because yourself knows. You can't hide from this. It knows. And just write all the things you don't like. And then once you've done that, write the opposite, from the place of, if it showed up exactly how you wanted it, is that how you want it? So I say that because you don't want to include negation. You don't want to include don't. You want to say, if you say, I don't want to be depressed, I want to be vibrant, I want to be happy, I want to feel fullness in my life. Talk from that place. And if it's challenging, then just play, or I'd like to. You can do something like, or I'm willing to. That softens it, because maybe you don't think you could actually just be happy right now. And then you fold the paper in half and you start functioning and looking from this place on the want side, and start to see what is it that you want your life to look like. Because so many people function from that don't want place that they don't know what's on the other side. Like, say the universe will give you what you want, but if all you keep talking about is what you don't want, then it can only give you that. So if you say, I don't like my job, okay, well, think about, why don't you like it? And what would you like if you had the ideal job for you? And talk from the place of the ideal job. And I'm not a big person on just be positive, because we have that lower stuff. And if we don't identify it and don't do something with it, it's still going to be there. You're just kind of covering it up until it comes back to the surface. So when you look at these things and go, oh, I want to shift this, I want this to change, then you give it an opening for it to start to do that.
Brilliant. I've actually done that exercise myself, and I know how powerful it is. Now, I know you work with Akashic records, don't you? Tell us what that means, what they are.
The Akashic records are a higher dimensional field of energy, of consciousness that's all around us. And the easiest way for me to describe it is like, we're recording this right now. So it's recording everything we're saying, all we're doing, my hand movements and all that kind of stuff, and everything you're doing. The Akashic records are like a record of that for each individual. And it's like if somebody was just recording everything, every thought you have, every word you say, everything you're doing, and it's logged. And you can go into that information and review it. And if it's something that I usually work in them to do healing work, because we have experiences that we didn't process, that we didn't move fully through, that we tried to, cover up or suppress because it didn't feel good. So you can go into your Akashic record, find that place, and actually shift the energy of that experience so it changes in your now, because there is no real time. So we can change whatever from then to now, and it's our brains just function or understand the then and now, but it just all changes. And it's profound work. I've done it on myself and for many clients, and the changes that happen are significant and pretty quick in the results that you get.
It sounds amazing. And my initial thought was, yeah, but if you go back through your lifetime, won't it take a lifetime to go back through it?
No, because what I just ask for the information that's necessary. So you're not actually looking at everything. You're just going to the point that is associated with whatever you want to look at. So the Akashic records also hold, depending on your view, other lifetimes. So your soul has a journey of lifetimes. And sometimes patterns we have now that we really can't, we'll go, I don't know why I have this repeating pattern. It doesn't make sense. It came with you from another lifetime. We can go back to that lifetime, rewrite, create change in that energy, and it changes now. It's actually very fun.
That magic. Sounds like magic. Well, I know you spoke about the fact that you've set up boundaries for yourself and you've had to do that with your work. But do you ever experience moments where you wish those messages would just stop coming through?
No, not at this point. I've come to understand that to let any of it in, we have to let all of it in. It's just the fullness of the experience. And I just let if something is communicating with me and it's not a time I want to communicate, because anything energetic doesn't really pay attention to time. It doesn't exist in that dimension. So they don't understand. Maybe it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I don't want to be bothered. I just let them know now's not a good time. Or communicate with me in this form instead of the way that they're doing. And it stops and it changes. And it's easy to set those boundaries, but not to the place that I don't use the word protection. I believe we're divine beings, part of source. Source doesn't need to be protected by or from anything, so neither do we. But it's just deciding what you're going to allow in, because you have free will choice. And you can allow whatever you want in whenever you want to allow it in. And so that softens that need to push against things, which actually causes more resistance, because if you have energy coming toward you and you're pressing against it, well, it's pressing back. So then it feels even more resistant and upsetting.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to someone who is in search of meaning in their life?
Well, I would ask them more what kind of meaning they're looking for, but if it's their path, what direction they want to go, I believe we all came here with the same purpose, and that's to express and experience our divine self through the physical form. And that shows up as gifts. So if you're really passionate or interested in something and love doing it, can get lost in time doing it, that's your gift. And that is expressing your divine purpose while you're in the physical. So do more of that. So if you're looking for meaning, what is it that you love doing? That if time, money, anything in the physical didn't matter, you would do it anyway. Then that is why you're here. Why your soul part of why it wants to be here is to express that in the physical experience. So to just tune into that. And that's done by the breathing and getting quiet. The world is so noisy. We don't hear a lot of the soft, gentle communication that higher energy or higher beings speak to us from a place of a higher vibration. When we're in a lower one, out of being upset or the noise going on around us, we can't hear them. So when you can sit and just be quiet and just open yourself up and say, I'm looking for this. What is meaning for me? How can I express my purpose? And allow yourself to feel or sense what comes in whatever way that is for you. And if it doesn't happen the first time, you just keep doing it. And as your energy softens and opens up to it, it'll come in, and then you'll be like, oh, there it is.
Wow. So it's having that curiosity.
Yeah. And that openness is about being open and receptive to things. Most of us are move in an outward direction, like doing this or the whole imbalance in giving and receiving. We're the giver, but we don't let anything in. Everything has an inward movement as much as it has an outward movement. And if you're always just outward, you're not letting the other in. And so it's there, it's just kind of stopped and waiting for you to receive it.
That's simple. So when you're no longer here in your physical body, Tammy, where will you be?
That's it. The human mind, what can it understand? And we just go back to energy form, to this is solid and low vibrational. And when our soul is high vibrational and it's not tangible, there isn't substance to it. I do know that the connection of having been human, when someone transitions or dies, they have something to them, because I interact with spirits, dead people, and they still have a connection. I won't say an attachment, but a connection to having been physical, and they can bring their energy into a vibration that they can be recognized and connected with. But then they're still more expanded. So this is just a tiny little piece of the vastness of who and what we really are. And then our part of that goes back to the bigger consciousness of source. When I was a little kid, I used to see God not as this man, but as this cloud. And we were little droplets that came out of that cloud. And we'd lived our life. And then we each have a spot that we go back to. So it's not, no one else will ever fill our spot there. And then we go back there and we're just everything and all things. And it's a beautiful thought, but our soul likes coming into the physical because of all the physicalness to it. The senses, these 5 senses are the unusual ones to our soul. Intuition is the normal one, but we're backwards in the human experience. We think the intuition's the strange one and these are the normal ones.
Wow. So fascinating. Honestly, Tammy, I could listen to you all day. So for those of you that want to understand a bit more and maybe work with Tammy, please do click on the links below this video. One final question, Tammy. How would you like people to remember you?
As someone who inspires and uplifts them, someone who helps them to see who they really are and to be able to live that fully in this lifetime.
Gorgeous. Tammy Braswell, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.